Do this last night, but I'm gonna do it now. Get myself comfortable on the ones and twos. Let me stop. Batman pillow. Get comfortable on you bitches. Let me stop. Oh, um, yeah, I was gonna do this last night, but uh, got sidetracked with talking with folks. So I'm gonna do this now, right before the Super Bowl. uh, let me well, okay, someone's in the chat room, so that means that the live is public. Just wanted to that was gonna be the first thing I checked was to make sure that this was public. So it looks like it is, and um, I don't know if people watching the pre kickoff festivities. I would think Super Bowl 60 is going to be big because it's a huge even number, 60, Super Bowl 60. Uh, and again, I'm not even sure who's playing. I think someone said the Seahawks and the Patriots. I don't know if that's true. Is that true? Um, you guys can tell me when you pour into the chat room, or you can tell me in the comment section when people watch this broadcast on replay and be like, "Yeah, man, where were you?" Um, I wasn't watching. That's why. I don't know. But yeah, let me check to make sure. Uh, on the back end that everything is copacetic. Um, yeah, yeah. So it is live. Good stuff. And so for when as people are starting to come in, um, hello to everyone in the chat room, just coming into the chat room. So the topic is basking in reflected glory. Why some of us don't care about Super Bowls. So that's the topic, and I'm going to explain myself. All right. Um, I I have no problem with people, liking the Super Bowl or liking football or other competitive sports generally. My All I'm doing here is explaining why some people don't. I'm not attacking people who do like competitive sports. I am simply going to explain why the people who don't like them, such as myself, so I can speak on it. But for people who are going to watch at 6:30, more power to you. Have fun with that. Hope you enjoy it. Um, Honestly, even when I did watch the Super Bowl decades ago, I only watch for the commercials. Pretty much only watch for the commercials. And now that all of those commercials are aired on the internet, you know, I can see those commercials on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. I don't even need to watch the actual Super Bowl to see the commercials. San Fran Vet says, "Man, Bad Bunny gonna be hyped. So excited." I am not excited. Well, if that's what you enjoy, more power to you. I would not be excited to see some Puerto Rican dude who likes to wear dresses. That's that. How do you go from a high moment of like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and 50 Cent to Bad Bunny, some Fanuc that wears a dress? I'm sorry, I'm going to keep it 100. I'm gonna keep it a buck here. I don't I don't think too many straight men are excited to see some cross dressing anti-American Puerto Rican Fanuc being represented at the halftime show. seriously. Like I said, we've had great moments at halftime shows. Like again, I don't even care about the Super Bowl, but I will watch the commercials and I will watch the halftime show. And there was great moments like Prince, Michael Jackson. Arguably, Michael Jackson's probably the best halftime show ever. Michael Jackson. You had like Michael Jackson. You had Prince. Again, you had Dr. Dre with Snoop and 50 Cent. Um, you had what's his name, and I did not think he was going to actually play that song, but he actually played that song making fun of Drake. What's his name? Um, you know who? But again, what's up to everyone in the chat? San Fran versus Latin people getting a spot in history in one of America's biggest events. People making it over political because he made it political. You can't say people are making political when the artist himself made it political. The artist himself made it political with his anti-ice bullshit, and then he went to the Grammys and doubled down on the stuff that he was already talking about. So now he made it political, not people. And I'm sorry, if I were Latino, if I were Latino, and I do have some Hispanic ancestry, but I'm just saying, well, I don't consider myself Afro Latino. I'm foundational Black American. But if I were Latino, I would not want some cross dressing anti American dick sucking Fanuc from Puerto Rico representing all of all of Latinos and Hispanic people. I'm just saying, I would not. There are way too many more talented Latino artists out there that can represent Por la Raza than Bad Bunny. Way more people across Latin America um, that can represent Por la Raza. He's not a good representation unless, but you're from San Francisco, so you're already, you know, no shade, but yeah, San Francisco and great city by the way. Been there, pretty cool. I love the Chinatown. Oh, that was like my favorite part of San Francisco was when I went to Chinatown. But you know, aside from that, yeah, I wouldn't rock with San Francisco like that. So yeah, Kid Rock halftime show. Yeah, I mean, I guess you have to be a hardcore Kid Rock fan, but no, hey, no shade to Kid Rock fans, but a Kid Rock halftime show does is not in the top tier. I'm sorry. If we're gonna talk about top tier like rock groups, Creed, when Creed did halftime show, and they said, "Can you take me higher?" That is, that's a halftime show right there. Creed, Kid Rock. I mean, I guess he had his moment in the late '90s, but I mean, when you think of like timeless halftime shows, like I said, Prince, Michael Jackson, um, no question. Uh, but this is not going to just be talking about the halftime show. I mean, we can definitely talk about that. Uh, Joel Rollins says Bad Money is an insult to Americans. It is strategic. Strategic? I won't say a strategic. I say a strategic blunder because the NFL, by and large, would not want to piss off half the country intentionally, since the majority of people who watch football tend to be the same people who would not like Bad Bunny. I mean, let's be honest. People who love the NFL are more masculine type folks, more masculine men. prefer football. And again, I'm not even a football fan, but just out of just off of just off of bro code, even if I don't like sports, I'm gonna support. Even if I don't like watching sports, I'm still gonna support sports. Just off of bro code. Um, and look, most bros love sports, love football, love the Super Bowl. Most bros would not want to see someone like Bad Bunny. And most of the women who like masculine men wouldn't want to see Bad Bunny. So it's all the so when someone say people have made it political, no, the artist himself made it political in his rants about anti-ice. And it's like ICE handles international threats that come to America. This is why it was formed in that very this was the this was the point of its establishment as part of the Patriot Act of 2003, when both the Department of Homeland Security and ICE were formed in the aftermath of the terrorist attacks. And most of the people, and like this is why people are talking past each other, is because I can their job is made more severe by the fact that local governments won't assist them when their mission as of right now is to round up illegal immigrants who are wanted for crimes or have already been convicted of said crimes. But when they're not given assistance by local governments to come in and do their investigations, like the local law enforcement could arrest these people and hold them on an ICE detainer, making it easy. But instead, since these people actually have to come into these communities and round these folks up, they were just like, well, when we come in and round up these wanted suspects, we're just going to take everyone in the vicinity who's also um, here illegally. That wouldn't happen if they could simply just go to the correctional facilities and pick these people up on detainer that the local and state police have rounded up. Make it much easier. Just saying. But people, you're not gonna find sympathy amongst people who care about public safety and less crime when people are defending picking up people who are sexual predators, rapists, murderers, and done other sorts of violent crimes, or they've consistently come through the country abusing the immigration system. So not much sympathy there, because again, in most other countries, including the countries from where these people come, they would not tolerate this. The immigration policies in many of these other countries from where these people have came are way more severe in Mexico and many other Latin American countries on their policies, or these Caribbean islands. They deport people so fast in places like Mexico or Bermuda or other places like that. Jamaica, forget about it. And they're not only targeting Latinos. You know how many Canadians they sent back? Europeans they sent back? Many. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can freaking Google it. The information is publicly accessible. So the artists made it political. Plus, again, masculine men don't want to see the only the only person that can get away, the only guy that can get away with rocking a dress and masculine men will still want to hear him sing is Prince. Because Prince gets the bitches. No one wants to hear Bad Bunny, a motherfucker who can barely speak English, sitting there trying to talk down on America when you come from a fucking glorified. You come from a glorified U.S. territory, like you're barely even you're barely American, barely. You come from a U.S. territory, and you're talking shit in broken ass English, and you fucking wear dresses. Why should anyone take that cornball seriously? He made it political. The Lobster Man says, not even going to watch the game. Haven't watched one all season. The NFL has played out. It's become a soft sport. Hockey is where it's at. You just want to see some violence. I mean, hey, you got the UFC. You got I mean, I love mixed martial arts, so I don't like UFC that much. I like the one fighting championship better. Much much better fighters who can strike, not just wrestle. Like UFC to me is just wrestling with a bunch of clumsy ass punches and kicks. I mean, there are a few excellent strikers in the UFC. Don't get me wrong, but UFC more or less seems to be a bunch of people who moved from college wrestling and ended up taking some mediocre striking so they could compete in mixed martial arts. Whereas ONE FC, these people are like serious kickboxers and Muay Thai, Nak Muay, Thai boxers, and then they get their background in things like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and stuff like that. Much better skills, striking skill, much better like fighting all around. But that's a preference. Whether UFC won a one fighting championship, whatever, they're all good. But if you want violence, there's plenty of violence to be had. I'm not gonna say football has gotten soft because I don't really watch it, so I'm not a person to say that. I will say that there's still plenty of CTE to go around with football. San Fran versus, but Kendrick made a stance too, and nobody said nothing. I feel the issue is because he's Latin, and the ICE narrative is to come after Latino people. But no, that's just bullshit. Again, that's all certain media outlets want you to see. They don't show you all the Canadians they round up, all the Europeans they rounded up, all the Asians they rounded up, all the Caribbean folks they rounded up, all the Africans they rounded up. What about all those Haitians they rounded up? You're saying, oh, they just come after Latino. No, Latinos are just making a lot of noise with the protests, waving the Mexican flag while saying, you can't send us back there. Why the fuck are they waving? Look, I don't take them seriously. And honestly, a lot of legal immigrants from those countries don't take these folks seriously either. If you are protesting not being sent back to a country from which you illegally left, why are you waving the flag of that very country? Does that make any fucking sense to anyone who's a rational person? Why are you waving a Mexican flag while protesting being sent back to Mexico? That's retarded. That's fucking retarded. If anything, you should be waving an American flag saying, don't send me back. I'm American. I want to be American or whatever. You're waving a Mexican flag while saying you can't, don't send Mexican people back to Mexico. And again, they're here illegally. No one has to fucking take anyone seriously, not just from Mexico, not just from Latino American countries, from any other country in the world. America, look, the United States, Canada, and the UK are like some of the most lenient countries when it comes to the immigration policies. And on top of that, where were these protests during the Obama ICE raids? This is why people don't take people like you seriously. Where were all these protests during the Obama ICE raids? Matter of fact, why was CNN doing ride-alongs with the ICE during the Obama administration? If you don't believe me, again, Google this shit. It is publicly accessible. You guys display selective outrage, and that's why people call you out on your hypocritical bullshit. Most Latinos are evenly split on Bad Bunny's slated performance this evening. Because again, masculine men don't want to see some faggot in a dress. Yeah, I said it. On top of that, there are many Latinos who voted for Trump and don't like illegal immigrants because they take resources away from the legal immigrants here in this country. San Francisco, ICE been doing its commitment loosely in hunting people and trying to paint a narrative, and it bit them in the butt with the petty shooting. First of all, where's you're doubling down on the statement instead of providing reasons for your statements. Merely doubling down on the statement does not provide reason for said statement. You're just making a circular argument. On top of that, Petty fucking deserved it. I'm gonna fucking say it. When you fucking attack an ICE officer, we saw the video footage of him kicking the truck and being a fucking asshole. We saw the other bitch sitting there almost speeding off in her car in the direction that could have hit that officer. The same officer who just came back on duty after being off for months, after being dragged by a vehicle from a previous protester. And he's shooting the bitch with self-defense. And I'll tell you another thing, don't talk to a veteran about that being wrong, because plenty of veterans who served in combat arms, I'm not talking about you little chair-borne rangers, I'm talking about actual combat vets, people who actually served in a combat role, will say, yeah, what he did was when he shot Renee Good, whatever, 3-4 times. Yeah, that's about right. It was a dude as a former 75th Ranger. It was like, yeah, about 3, 4, 5 times. Yeah, that's about right. Stop her in the vehicle. Don't talk to people who served in combat arms about that being overkill. Like I said, the only people, the vets that be like, oh, that was wrong, were a bunch of motherfuckers who never served in combat arms. So, anywho. San Fran versus hiring and training agents 45 days, hilarious. Man, personally, I don't care. You're moving the goalposts from. You're moving the goalposts. What does that have to do with anything? That's irrelevant. You're moving the goalposts. Look, the fact of the matter is, a lot of people don't want to see some faggy ass Latino who dresses in women's clothes, who complains about ICE while barely being able to speak English, especially when those guys have a hard-ass job trying to round up a bunch of fucking illegal immigrants who have committed crimes in America or back in their home country and are walking around freely in our country. Fuck them. No.4MK1 says, well, you have an IQ over room temperature. You can't explain this to Dems. Right, man. Like I said, I don't know how fucking retarded it is to see people protesting ICE while waving Mexican flags. That is stupid. I'm sorry, that's fucking stupid. He said immigrants are on the same page to get predators and evildoers out too. The issue is that ICE is just picking random people out because the language or skin you speak or have. No, it's not. When they go out to those places, they are conducting an investigation on. You have never worked in any. You call yourself San Fran vet, but it's quite patently obvious you have never worked in any vicinity of law enforcement or investigate or intelligence whatsoever. These people don't go blindly into these neighborhoods. There is intel they are receiving when they go into these places and then they conduct their investigations. Again, because local governments won't assist them, and I'm not going to, and this is not going to monopolize my live stream because you want to talk about this faggy bullshit. Because you're from San Francisco, so I already assumed that you're probably sucking dick anyway. So yeah, I'm getting frustrated here. So I'm gonna call out exactly what I think. You're from San Francisco, so you're probably a cocksucker. Look, you have never worked in law enforcement or any sort of investigative role because those people don't go blindly into those neighborhoods just hoping to find brown people that speak Spanish. They are coming there on intel to round up suspects. The problem is, since local law enforcement are being told to stand down and not assist them, they're going to go in these neighborhoods and round up these folks. And if there are other suspected illegal immigrants in the vicinity, they're going to pick them up too. But it'd be a lot easier if local law enforcement were there to assist them, pick these suspects up, and keep them on detainer for ICE. Make things a lot smoother, wouldn't it? And that's all I'm not going to entertain this bullshit anymore. And here you go, guys. Every time a liberal doesn't get his way with another black person or person of color, they instantly go to racism. This is what Malcolm X warned black people about 60 years ago about the closeted racism of liberals. This is why he said he would prefer the overt racism of a southern redneck to the subtle racism of a liberal fox who pretends to be black people's friends all the while undermining them. Because this bitch ass faggot from San Francisco says, oh, laugh my ass off, barely American is like saying a black is barely American because they come from Africa. No, bitch, at the end of the day, I'm more American than you are, motherfucker. I can trace my ancestry all the way back to motherfucking Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers of this country, who wrote the Declaration of Independence, the third president of the United States. What can you trace your fucking ancestry back to, you fucking Peter Puffer? On top of that, most black Americans have been in this country longer than white people. We came here in 1619, a full year before the Mayflower arrived in Massachusetts. We came in 1619 to Jamestown, Virginia, which was established in 1607. And some of us were here even before that, living in the Spanish colonies. So way more fucking American than you are, bitch. 400 plus years. I bet you can't date your ancestry back that far into America's history. So you can suck my dick, which is probably what you're good at anyway, because you're from San Francisco, you fanuke. And again, for all these people talking all this bullshit about ICE, where were you motherfuckers during Obama's administration protesting ICE raids? They were those ICE raids were going on back then. Where was all the fucking moral outrage, all this performative outrage during the Obama administration when his ICE raids were going on? I wonder what the difference is. Or outraged on the Obama ICE raids. Again, don't for it. Google it yourself. Ask ChatGPT, because most of you fuckers are too retarded and don't remember anything from history beyond the last time you sucked dick or smoked weed, so you can't remember shit. But you can ask ChatGPT, you can ask Grok, you can ask Google about those Obama ICE raids. You can even ask them about when CNN did a ride along with ICE agents doing one of these raids. You liberals, you defenders of illegal criminals who cross our borders, where were y'all then? If y'all hate ICE and Department of Homeland Security so much, where were y'all? Where was y'all outrage when Obama reauthorized the Patriot Act? Where was y'all outrage with when Biden was doing his stuff with ICE and Department of Homeland Security? When Kamala told immigrants, "Don't come here." Where was your outrage then? Where was your outrage for the Obama ICE raids? Where were you outraged when Obama was doing his secret drone wars across the Middle East and North Africa, killing Americans abroad, raining down terror on people of Arab and Berber uh, ethnicity because of their alleged color? Where was the outrage then? Where was the outrage when he approved blackout missions that even Bush wouldn't approve of during his administration? Where was the outrage then? Where was your outrage for Obama, who sent back more people as deporter in chief than Trump did? Where was the outrage then? Where were all these celebrities talking about no one's illegal on stolen land during Obama's era when he served as the deporter in chief? Where was the outrage then? Where was the outrage during the Clinton era when he fucking formed, when he signed into law the Immigration Reform Act, which established most of the policies that all these presidents have been carrying out since 1996? Everything that George W. Bush has been doing, Obama has done, Trump has done, Biden has done, and Trump is now doing again in his second term, started under Clinton in 1996 when he started the IRA, or Immigration Reform Act, which either expanded on current immigration policies or established the harsher ones that are being used today. Where was the outrage for Clinton? Where was the outrage for Biden? Where's the outrage for Obama during his ICE raids? Where was it? Where was it? Where was it? This is why I'm no longer a progressive. Why I would never vote Democrat again, because you guys are full of shit. This faggot says because Obama approached the immigration with human empathy, making DACA and other programs for helping to become citizens. Meanwhile, deporting more than Trump did. Meanwhile, having ICE raids. Meanwhile, still locking up people in detention centers on the border. You're full of shit. San Fran vet is full of shit. Because he did DACA, that meant he was a good guy, right? You're full of shit. What's up, Carlton? Thanks for the assist. And I don't care what San Fran vet says, because once liberals can't get their way, they start showing their racist colors. As soon as he couldn't get his way, he was saying, "Oh yeah, well, black people are barely American because they're from Africa." Bitch, I'm more American than he ever will be. I can trace my ancestry back to one of the founding fathers of the motherfucking country. Matter of fact, my family still lives close to the right next to the Jeffersonian plantation in Charlottesville, Virginia. Like they still literally live down there, right there in Charlottesville. Like literally right there. Like I said, a lot of people are fucking retarded because none of you have ever worked in the vicinity of military or law enforcement or investigations, and you don't know what ICE's mission is. Again, if you had problems with it, you should have had problems with it back in 2003 under George W. Bush when he established both ICE and DHS under the Patriot Act. You should have had a problem when Obama decided to reauthorize the Patriot Act under his administration. You should have had a problem with him when he was conducting his ICE raids. So David Hayes is who gave these damn liberals the authority to start setting up roadblocks on our streets. Yeah, like you can peacefully protest, but you can't stop traffic. You can't assault, and you can't assault federal agents. Like these people are so used to using their little, especially these white liberal feminist women are so used to using their little female white privilege that they think they can assault cops. They can stop them from conducting investigations. Fuck out of here. Like I said, if this was any other police force, they would have got their heads bashed in. I wish they would have done some shit like that to the NYPD or LAPD back in the day, or some Virginia state troopers or something like that. Man, psh. So of course some little San Francisco Pete and Puffer Fanuc is going to be on that bullshit. No, that's why no one takes San Francisco seriously. Like all y'all mother man. Mm. With a city that's a fucking cesspool, y'all you shouldn't be talking. You shouldn't be having any shit to say because you're probably one of the privileged few living loft living loftily in some house while half of your city is in homeless tents and all cracked out off of drugs. And someone's asking me, am I racist? No, I'm not racist. Look, Latino folks have been my brothers. But again, even Latinos don't like illegal immigrants. Wonder why? Because those illegal immigrants take the resources that are supposed to go to their community. They have to directly compete with illegal immigrants in their own fucking community for the same resources. The Chicano the Chicano version of Martin Luther King, he was against illegal immigration too, because he knew that one, if they took up they took up jobs and resources that should go to the legal Latinos here in America. But liberals and other hypocritical folks don't have anything to say about that, do they? Uh, like y'all, like what do y'all have to say about the Mexican American Youth Association, or you know other sorts of Chicano activist groups from the '70s and stuff like that? Hmm? 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 But you think I'm anti-Latino because I'm against illegal immigration? I'm against illegal immigration from every country, not just Latin America. Liberals keep trying to paint it as being anti-Latino when they're sending hella people back to Canada, hella people back to Europe, hella people back to Africa, hella people back to the Caribbean islands, and hella people back to Asia. they try to paint it as it only being Latinos, and it's so fucking disingenuous, and that's why people don't take you seriously. Like I said, the Chicano the Chicano version of Martin Luther King, Chavez, he was against illegal immigration too. So was Chavez now anti-Latino? Huh? All their talking points start to break down once you actually have to use use an actual rational argument for them. It starts breaking down because the problem with a lot of people on the left is that their arguments aren't aren't built on hard evidence. Once you bring in hard evidence, it starts fucking their arguments start dissolving, and so they resort to name calling and racism. Yes, liberal racism. They're notorious for it, and this is why fucking Malcolm X, way back in the early '60s, since back in 1963, warned of the closeted liberal racists. Way back in 1963, because it was true then and it's still true now. But again, being against illegal immigration makes you anti-Latino. So was Cesar Chavez also anti-Latino? Answer me that. Was Cesar Chavez also anti-Latino? Was Cesar Chavez also anti-Latino because he was against illegal immigration, which hurts the Latino and Hispanic communities here in America? They can't answer that because they don't have hard evidence to support their views. They just have emotional appeals. Carlton says, what's funny is that the undocumented, quote unquote, isn't really undocumented. The government knows who's walking around here due to um, I think he was about to say advanced information or intel. He said, when they want you, they'll get you. Exactly. Look, we can, we can, we can see people literally from space into their homes, given the resources to conduct such investigations. David Haynes says they love the idea of Greenland sovereignty. Greenland doesn't, yeah, because Greenland doesn't even have sovereignty. It is a, it is a, I guess, a protectorate of the Kingdom of Denmark, which has been largely been protected and policed by America for the past what 50 plus years. So people saying fuck ice, like okay, they'll I'm pretty sure they'll do you. But this isn't even why going into this live that I was talking about why I don't care about Super Bowls and why a lot of people don't. Because, like I said, most men do love football. Most men are excited about Super Bowls generally, even if not currently this one. So my original topic was to explore why people don't like aren't excited about seeing football games or the Super Bowl more precisely. And that's what I'm gonna get back into because we're not gonna turn this into some anti-ice discussion just because some faggot from San Francisco want to keeps talking about that shit. Carter says there's no outrage for Obama during the Flint, Michigan water crisis or for Trayvon Martin. Exactly. He didn't do anything about the Trayvon Martin situation. And again, that's because Obama's not even really black. He's a tether. His mother was white. His father was a Kenyan immigrant. He didn't ever grow up in a black community. He grew up in Hawaii and in Indonesia before going to college. And then when his mother died, he was being taken care of by his grandparents, like in Hawaii. Like, dude had no contact with the black community. Like, it'd be different if he was an African that grew up in the black community. But he you can't even say that for him. He's a fucking tether. So of course he didn't a real black president would have initiated some sort of response to the Trayvon Martin thing and some other stuff. Although eh, Trayvon wasn't completely innocent himself, but I don't want to go there. That's a completely controversial take for another day. But again, regardless of that, of Trayvon's, what he had going on at the time. Look, he all Obama ever did was talk. He did nothing for black people in the 8 years he was in office. Nothing. Only thing he did was fucking sing some fucking hymnal at a black church when he needed the support of black voters. But he did literally nothing his whole 8 years for the black community. Nothing. Other than people say, well, he some of the things that he signed into that that he did by executive decisions helped everyone, including black people. That doesn't count. That doesn't count. But yeah, there was none of this moral outrage during the Obama ICE raids. That's why I call bullshit on these people acting up a fool right now. Carter said, San Fran, you can disagree without being hostile. Yeah, I gave him the boot. He got the hammer, so he won't be here anymore. He can go suck dick and talk trash on someone else's live streams. He's probably gonna do a in celebration of Bad Bunny. He's probably gonna go suck some dick before the kickoff. He's gonna have a nut off. Oh, Bad Bunny is going to perform. Oh, it's so great for the Latinos. Oh, so great for the Latinos. Oh God. Probably taking it from both ends, from the north and the south. Getting run through, talking about shots. Fucking Peter Puffer. And David Hayes says, it's funny, how can you call someone ignorant but not make a coherent argument? Facts. Like I said, all he did was double down on what he was saying instead of giving like actual like cogent reasons. And then as soon as I disagreed with him, he was trying to say, "Oh well, you black people aren't really American either." Even though I'm way more American than he is. Like I said, I can trace my ancestry back to fucking Thomas Jefferson, who the Jeffersons came to this country in the early 1600s. And I'm sorry, in the late 1600s. I think the Jefferson family came here around what, the 1640s, something like that. Um, and like most Black Americans, like I can trace, family members that's probably been here since the 18th century, if not the 17th century, because Black people been here since 1619, and some have been here before that, living in the Spanish colonies that became part of the United States. So, yeah, he can try me again on that, but he can't because I banned this dumbass. You can disagree with me, but you're not gonna sit there and you know try to hijack my live stream. Carter says even Trump said black people built America. Exactly. Trump himself said this stuff, and he wasn't even pandering when he said that. On top of that, Dude did a lot of stuff for black people that, didn't get recognition until he ran for office, because he didn't do it with the intention of like, you know, being seen. Like I said, when Mandela was released from prison in South Africa, he chartered that man a private jet to bring him to America. He was a campaign supporter of Jesse Jackson back in the 80s. He was even a campaign supporter of the Clintons back in the day, because he was, I mean, so much so that they were friends back then that he was invited to Chelsea Clinton's wedding. He was a friend of Oprah Winfrey. He was on the Oprah Winfrey show like, was it like 25 years ago or so, and she was saying you should run for office. She was telling him, "Why?" He's like, "Have you considered running for office?" He's like, "I don't know. Maybe I will in the future." Oprah, as much trash as Whoopi Goldberg talks about him, she was good friends with him back when he was still doing The Apprentice. When Jennifer Hudson's family lost their home during the Katrina floods and all that, he put them in his Trump Towers for free. Some random woman in New York City, once he saw crying and boo-hooing, he asked her what was her problem. He listened to her. He told her, everything would be all right, and just handed her, a, some cash. He didn't have to do that. There was no cameras around. We know about it because she's spoken about it on later on camera, many years later, about how kind he was to her. Does that sound like a person who's racist? Would he go out of his way to help a random black woman just crying and thinking the sky's gonna fall, and just giving her words of encouragement and some money to help her get by in a dark time? And like I said, there's other examples of that. Rappers used to love the dude. He been on a lot of black he's been in a lot of black entertainers uh content over the years. He was on the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. You can look at the episode. Yeah, he was on the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. He was in a Mace video. And he was in another rappers, like if he wasn't being talked about by rappers, like he would do cameos. Like he had a full on cameo in Mace's video, because he called out Trump and the at the time the president of Singapore, and they both appeared in this video. I was like, damn, he used to be friends with Puffy. That's why Puffy was trying to reach out to him so he could get out of prison, but Puffy burned that bridge when he was talking shit about him. He helped ASAP Rocky get out of jail in what was that, the Netherlands or Denmark or something years ago during his first term. He was literally on Twitter saying free my mans. I mean, he didn't say free my mans, but he was saying free ASAP Rocky, which is literally equivalent of like, yo, free my mans. He uh he gave uh uh presidential pardons to a lot of folks like Lil Wayne and some other folks who may have not deserved it, to be honest. But does this sound like a person who hates black people? So I don't want to hear that. Circumcised, circumcised in your says, I'm going to subscribe to your channel with these white liberal scumbags and these black liberal scumbags who follow these racist white liberal scumbags. Appreciate it. Um, So San Fran says Puerto Rico's America. Dude, like I don't know that. I look, unlike San Fran vet, I actually, took geography in college. Kind of noted. Again, I stated it's a glorified US territory, which is exactly I wasn't there was there was no hyperbole in what I said. It is a US territory. It is not a state. They have voted against being a state for the past 30 years. Every time it's come up, you know, so I didn't say anything wrong. I said it's a glorified U.S. territory. They don't have the same rights as people in the continental U.S. That's why I said they're barely. That's why I teased and said they're barely American because people living in U.S. territories do not have the same rights as people living in the continental United States, or even the states like Hawaii and Alaska. Like those are full states with all the rights inherent to them. But U.S. territories like Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, the Northern Mariana Islands, American Samoa don't have the same rights as people living, as people who are citizens um, of of the country living in states. Where was I wrong on that? That guy gets so much cum in his mouth, it messes up his brain. Someone says happy Sunday. Hello guys, what's up? Carlos says I'm interested in the halftime show just to see how people will react and what possible message will be sent to the masses. I think you're gonna see a dip in the rate in the viewership during the halftime show. That's what I think will happen. Some will watch it out of curiosity, but others are gonna just say, "Nah, I'm good," and watch something else for that half an hour. Someone said, "Who in your window is waving at us?" Your mother. She's trying to get me to put it in her ass again. Cartrell Stevens 3904. Crowfire says 61657. But bro, when are you getting married? Yeah, that happened like 8 years ago. Been married for 8 years, dumbass. Wife has literally been on my live stream. I just don't bring her on every day because I'm not commoditizing her being here. Anywho, moving on. So aside from all of that, a lot of people aren't excited about the Super Bowl just because there are a lot of people who don't really care about competitive sports, much less football. And there's nothing wrong with them, but I want people to understand why there's some people who don't like them. Connor says I think the Seahawks will win. I think they're evenly matched at this point because I don't know too much about either team other than the Patriots are like the team. They're like they are the team. But other than that, like I said, even if I don't watch sports, just off of bro code, I always support sports. I don't watch it, but I still support sports just off of bro code. But what I will say is that a lot of folks like myself, didn't grow up watching sports like that. Like, neither with my father or my stepfather would I um, sit down and really watch a game. Now, I would occasionally watch a basketball game, like especially during the 80s and 90s when I watched the Chicago Bulls, like from the time that Jordan uh, came onto the came onto the Bulls to the time he left. I used to watch those games occasionally, but that's about it. I never really pretty much watched baseball or football or soccer or hockey. Um, Occasionally, I went to a football game. Well, no, only twice actually. I went to a Redskins game uh, back in the '90s, and I'm not gonna lie, I fell asleep, and I was just cold and tired, so I went to sleep. Um, and then I went to a Ravens game like 10 years ago with my father. that time I actually watched and enjoyed it. One of my friends from school was part of the cheerleading team, a male. He is straight. Um, he's also a teacher. So, but he was cool. Um, and I've been to like a bunch of Orioles games. Carlos says participating in sports is better than watching it. Yeah, and that's another thing because people are like, well, you don't like sports? I'm like, no, I am an athlete, but I like participating, not necessarily watching. Like I find it myself boring, and there's a lot of reasons why people like myself find it boring. Is that we have a like literally we are wired differently neurologically speaking. Like our brains are wired differently that get we don't we're not stimulated. Our reward system. I'm not trying to use technical terms here. So our reward system isn't stimulated watching other people, you know, win games and stuff like that. And that's why I titled this Basking in Reflected Glory, because that's how you can view it, is like some people get excited watching their favorite athletes win and perform, and when these teams feel like an extension of themselves, that's why they get so emotionally invested in it. And like I said, there's some people who just aren't wired that way. Like we just don't feel that sense of reward watching others, get um, play sports. And like I said, watching it live is a little bit different. It is a little it is a bit more entertaining when you're actually at a game as opposed to watching it on TV. But to me, watching it on TV is just very boring. It is very boring. I mean, to sit through commercials and timeouts, um, and it's like unless you actually know people on the team, I'm not invested. Like I do actually have a family member who plays in the NFL. He plays for the Buffalo Bills. So I do actually have a family member, a cousin, who plays for the Buffalo Bills. He's here from, he's originally from here from Baltimore, not too far from where I currently live. As a matter of fact, um, his mother died during COVID, so that was kind of sad. I didn't even know that. He's like a younger cousin, so I don't remember talk ever like I'm pretty sure I probably met him once or twice, but I don't remember ever talking to him because he's a younger cousin. Like I'm in my late 40s, and so he is in I believe his 20s. So if we met, it was when he was still very he was still a little kid. But yeah, I do actually have a cousin who plays in the NFL. But aside from rooting for him, like I have no investments whatsoever in what happens in football or in any other competitive sport for that matter. Carter says participant. Oh, you already read. Sorry, I already read that. But yeah, so and like I said, that's because a lot of us literally are not wired. Um, our brains are not wired in that capacity to feel excitement watching other people play sports. Uh, Raz says Pats or Hawks. Like um, I don't have any preference because I'm not watching. Carlson says it's kind of funny that most of the people that watch sports tend to be out of shape, and the people in the sports are genetic specimens, right? Now I will be fair because I know that is a view that I've often laughed about as well. He said you don't like sports. Yes, bro. Did you not read the topic of the live stream before you came in? That's literally what this that's literally what this live stream is about. We got sidetracked talking about politics for like the first 45 minutes, and I actually knew that would happen anyway. So that's why I let it happen because I knew that was going to happen, and I knew that would take up some minutes. But literally, when you came into this live stream, that that is the whole topic. Basking in reflected glory, why some of us don't care about Super Bowls. That's literally the topic of this live stream. And I'm explaining now why some folks like myself don't are not um, aroused by watching other people play sports. Like I said, some of us just aren't wired um, neurologically to feel feel rewarded, with a rush of dopamine when we see um, some sports team win games. It doesn't excite us. It doesn't mean we hate sports. Like I don't hate sports. Again, I love sports, and like I said, just off bro code. Even if I never watch a sports game, I still support sports. Besides that, I am an athlete myself. I'm a distance runner and I'm an amateur kickboxer. But uh, again, the issue, and for that matter, I will occasionally watch boxing or Muay Thai, or MMA. I do watch so I do occasionally watch those because those things I am invested in because when I watch these other pugilists um, fight, it gives me motivation to continue what I'm doing as a martial artist. But I get zero excitement watching football or basketball or baseball or soccer or hockey, anything like that. Like there's a few moments I get excited. Like I was excited when the Chicago Cubs finally won back 10 years ago because I'm from Chicago and the Cubs seem to have had a curse for over 100, was like 106 years before they finally won um, their last championship. So I was excited when the Chicago Cubs won, and I actually stayed up past midnight just to watch, even though I had to be up early in the morning. But that was a rare occurrence. That had some investment in it as a Chicagoan to see the Cubs finally win a championship. Hey Agatha, she says hi sir, happy Sunday. Carlin says I watch sports occasionally, but I'm not a fanatic. Some of these dudes be walking around dressed head to toe in their quote unquote team clothes. Not really their team though. I know. Like I said, I don't get excited. I'm because I don't get a paycheck when the team wins. When my local team from Baltimore wins, I don't get a paycheck. So why should I be excited? If they lose, I don't get a pay cut either. So again, I'm not saying when they lose. I'm not saying when they lose because I don't receive a pay cut. I'm not excited when they win because I don't get a paycheck. So I'm just completely indifferent. It's like I don't hate them and I don't dislike sports. I'm just indifferent. On top of that, I don't like watching on TV because I just find it boring. Like I much rather watch a movie or you guys tell me when it's kickoff because I don't want to keep anyone on here um that late. Uh if we go that long. Pause. But yeah, I don't have any emotional investment in watching sports, and like I said, a lot of people like myself are that way because they're not wired to feel rewarded with a rush of dopamine when their team wins. Some of them find it boring, like myself. Others are more invested in other things, like um, whatever. Like they might just prefer watching other things on TV. They might prefer loftier things like reading and hiking and traveling and stuff like that. Um, there are some people who just completely dislike sports. I'm not. I don't take it that far. There's some people who just completely dislike sports because they don't like physicality, or they just find it exhausting, or whatever, or. But so there is a subset of the population that doesn't and will not watch sports. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with people who don't watch sports, and there's not anything wrong with people who do watch sports. It's just that we are wired differently. People who feel excitement when their team wins are wired in such a way that they get that they get that dopamine uh, rush when their favorite team wins or their favorite player wins. Because that's another thing. Then you have some people who kind of watch sports, but only because they have a favorite athlete, not a favorite team. Like for instance, with me, when I used to occasionally watch Chicago Bull games back in the 80s and 90s, I was watching for Jordan. I wasn't necessarily watching for the whole team, although I ended up liking most of the team as well, like Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant, and all the other folks surrounding him at the time, and seeing how Phil Jackson built that team around Jordan, same way he later did with the Lakers, around Kobe Bryant. Um, Carter says the 100-meter dash is probably the most exciting because it's explosive in a short competition. Um, yeah, so yeah, with like track and field. So that's another thing because other people are like, you're not watching the Winter Olympics. Like, no, the Winter Olympics is not exciting. And tell me if I'm wrong here, but there's there's no really manly sports being played during the winter. Are there any manly sports in the Winter Olympics? I think of ice skating, skiing, and bobsledding. Those are the only those. I'm sorry if I don't know too much about the Winter Olympics, but those are really the only three events I know of for the Winter Olympics: is bobsledding, skiing, and nothing of bobsledding. I think of the Jamaican bobsled team from the '80s or early '90s, whatever. But yeah, bobsledding, skiing, and figure skating and shit like that. None of that is very manly or would have me watching it unless it was like some ice skaters who had some cheeks out. That's about it. All the exciting Olympic games happen in the summer. Track and field, gymnastics, boxing, basketball, taekwondo, judo, fencing, um, stuff like that. Like I can at least see I can at least see how people would be more invested in the summer games because there's more interesting sports in the summer Olympics. The Winter Olympics, like I said, is kind of feminine to me. I'm sorry, because like I said, tell me where I'm wrong here. But the only thing I can remember in the Winter Olympics is things like figure skating, skiing, and bobsledding, which sounds boring as fuck. I'd much rather watch football than the Winter Olympics. uh, like I said, I was a volleyball player in college, so I love sports like basketball and soccer. Oh no, I remember you saying you were a volleyball player, Agatha. That's why I said you probably got some yams, because all the girls I knew played volleyball back in college had some yams on them, and I'm like, yo, why all these volleyball players yammed up? I don't know why. It was definitely one I was about to holler at once. This little light skinned chick, she had the little apple bottom. She was, man. Why did Matter of fact, why didn't I holler at her? Tripping. I need to I need to get my. Excuse me for a second. I'm about to jump in my DeLorean, take it back to 2000, and do my due diligence. I just need to hit it to 160 gigawatts. Let me stop. And I need some plutonium. Where's that's why we need Greenland. Plutonium. No, uranium. Sorry. Let me stop. Anyway, Carter says there are TikTok videos longer than a 100-meter dash. 100 meters, yeah, that's a short jaunt. You know, for I guess for sprinters. I When I did track and field briefly in high school. Um, I don't I don't know what it's because I left right before my first meet, so I don't know what they was gonna have me performing, but it would have been fun. I guess I love sports because it makes me concentrate and stay focused and grounded. Yeah, like I said, I love sports, and I love like playing sports. Like when I was with friends, we would play football or basketball. Definitely basketball because that was the easiest thing to do. You know, in an urban environment or at school, because there wasn't really. Well, no, we had fields where we could play football. As a matter of fact, I think we did. No, I was about to say, did we once play football? No, that wasn't in college. That was that was high school. I was thinking that was college. Now we would occasionally play basketball and stuff in college. But yeah, like as a kid, I've always played sports, especially basketball. But not even I know I remember I wanted to join I wanted to do the what do you call the baseball for little kids? It's called, I think, the Pee Wee. Is it called the Pee Wee Leagues or something like that? But yeah, I wanted to do that and I didn't. Me and my best friend, I think I think he did. We did do rec basketball though in the seventh grade. And I was so embarrassed because um, when we were practicing for teams, like I think the coach had told me to go do a layup and I didn't hear him, so I just did a jump shot, and people were making fun of me the next day. They was like, "This guy who can't do a layup." I'm like, "I can do a layup." I didn't hear him. I was so embarrassed. I didn't want to go back after that. So I guess his volleyball players are hot. Haha. Except for just Pearly thing, she ain't. But anyway, I'm jumping. Yeah, female volleyball players have some yams. They be yammed up. Just saying, all yammed up. They want to slam some balls. Let me stop. Let me stop. Bad contrarian. Bad contrarian. Bad contrarian. But I'm just saying, I don't know why volleyball players are built like that. They got no business being built like that. Just yammed up. Maybe it's from I don't know. They all like seem to be tall. Like they'll be around. They all seem like they're like around 6 foot or almost that tall. Like that. Matter of fact, some of them will play volleyball and basketball. Like my cousin, she was all star. She was an all star basketball um, player in high school. She also played volleyball. She went to school on a scholarship. That's a special shape. Yeah, it is special shape. They can get clapped up. Stop. Bad contrarian. Bad contrarian. Bad contrarian. I guess is looking back, if it weren't for sports, I would be out partying a lot in college. My friends who weren't into sports were living the fast life. Oh yeah, I know, because I was there to take it. I was there to uh indulge in the freshmen and sophomores, the fresh meat as they call them. Not that often though, only a few times. There was so many other opportunities to present themselves that I didn't take advantage of. But yeah, so I like I said, I love sports, um, and you know, I support athletes being able to have a career at, in sports, but that doesn't mean that I myself want to watch it or spend money on it, because I don't for the most part. like I said, the only thing I occasionally get into is like boxing and Muay Thai and MMA. Every once in a blue moon, I would watch my alma mater. If say if they go to a bowl, like if the football, if you know, if the University of Maryland when they go to a bowl, I will occasionally watch it or at least um, find out see the highlights and see whether they won or not. Same thing when they when the when the basketball team, whether the we talking about the Lady Terps or the guys, when they go, when they're in the Sweet 16, I would tend to check out how they're doing, even if I don't watch a full game, because I have that level of support for my alma mater, the esprit d'école, the school spirit for you non-French speakers. Even though I butchered how that, I know I didn't say it very well, but esprit d'école mean technically means school spirit. So I had that school spirit. So I still support this school, my alma mater, even if I don't religiously watch their games because I just don't have the time nor the interest to sit and watch a full sports game. Because, like I said, sports games on TV are just very boring. And like I said, watching them live, like watching a game in person, is a much different experience. It's more exciting. And when I'm bored, I can pull out my phone or go get some food or something. But watching games uh, in real life, it's a different experience than sitting down on the couch and watching them for 4 hours. I That's just not very exciting to me. And there's nothing wrong with people who do watch sports all the time, nor for people who don't. We're just wired differently. I do, I do like Carlton says have issues with the folks who who are extremely out of shape but are sports fanatics. It's like if you're such a sports fanatic, shouldn't that also motivate you to want to be physically active yourself? I, like maybe some of them were as young as in their youth, but then they completely lost their drive to 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 be physically active. It's like if you're such a sports fanatic and you realize that most of pro these professional athletes have these Olympian godlike fit like uh levels of physical fitness, shouldn't that motivate you to want to take care of your body too? Like just 20 minutes out of the day, take care of your body. Like wouldn't you want to take care of your body as someone that's something that kind of weirds me out about like sports fanatics is that like Carlton mentioned, like some of them are extremely out of shape. And it's like seeing these guys perform in competitive sports with these Olympian godlike physiques. Why would you not want to take care of your body as well? Like, wouldn't you feel motivation from seeing them to stay in shape yourself? Like, when I watch boxing, when I watch kickboxing or Muay Thai or mixed martial arts, I study what they're doing, what they do. Sorry, I study what they do, and sometimes I implement stuff that I see them do, like footwork, feints, combinations, or I look at their training routine. This stuff motivates me. This is how I've constantly this is how I constantly tweak what I do. This is why I do stuff like run 7 miles a day because I found out that Rocky Marciano and other um, elite boxers from the heyday of boxing were these long distance runners. That was like part of what they did to stay in shape and to have a lot of gas in the tank for their fights because these guys used to fight 15, 15 rounds sometimes. They would fight 12 to 15 rounds. Carlos says I'm going to be nosy and watch the alternative halftime show too just to see what message they will push. He said, when I watch boxing, I get motivated and start punching the air. Exactly. Like I said, like I don't know, maybe it's different with combat sports than with like competitive sports, dealing with like, throwing a ball. But in combat sports, it it seems like it kind of motivates you to want to learn to fight yourself. Like when you see these guys knocking each other out and trying to outsmart each other with feints and combos and clever footwork and finesse and just battling it out like gladiators, something, for at least for men, I can't say for women, but something inside you just makes you, just activates that warrior instinct in you. Like, even if you never fought a day in your life and you have a comfy, armchair job, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But even a guy who's as white collar as can be, something sparks. This is why a lot of people end up, going off and doing introductory classes at their local mixed martial arts gym or their local boxing gym. Even if they don't plan on, competing, some of them may not even want to spar, which, I mean, they're I don't know why, but they're actually, there are some, what I guess what you can call white collar boxing gyms where you don't actually have to spar. Kind of defeats the purpose. The whole point of me doing boxing, I do want to spar because I want to get that stress out. I want to hit and get hit. I just don't want to get hit too hard where it's gonna, affect my ability to work and, not have CTE in the future. But beyond that, um, yeah, I mean, when you watch combat sports, at least for me, and I think many other men, when you watch combat sports, it kind of motivates you to want to fight yourself. But I don't get that same motivation in watching people compete in sports with, where they're throwing and passing a ball to each other. Like, it doesn't have the same level of intrigue for me. Like, I don't feel rewarded. And like I said, I feel rewarded through combat sports because that's something I myself do. So I've never been excited about Super Bowls. Like I said, when I was younger and I did watch the Super Bowl, literally I only watched it for the commercials. That was it. And often during the halftime shows were often boring. So I would turn to like MTV during the halftime show because MTV would have their own little version of the halftime show. It was often more exciting. Um, but yeah, what time we got here? 6:02. Okay. Yeah. I'm not gonna keep you guys to 6:30. I know some of you got the buffalo wings going and the nachos, the potato skins, or whatever you got is. I'm probably gonna making myself hungry even mentioning all this stuff. But look, I don't worry, I won't hold you. Pause. But like I said, I just wanted to give a defense of the minority of men out there who don't watch sports, who don't care about the Super Bowl. Like, you remember, it was like a week ago that there's someone in the chat room even reminded me that the Super Bowl was happening and who was playing in the Super Bowl, because I didn't know. I mean, I knew it was coming up, but I didn't know the date nor who was even in the who was in playing. I didn't know it was the Seahawks versus the Patriots, because one guy was mentioning something about the Cowboys, and I'm like, he was like, "Don't say anything bad about my Cowboys." And I'm like, "How am I gonna say something bad about a team that I don't watch or care about? Like, I don't watch football." Um, DJ 87975 is Bad Bunny for the halftime show. Yeah, so all the little people in San Francisco, like the guy I had to boot earlier, San Fran Vet, are gonna be on their knees sucking dick in commemoration of Bad Bunny. Like, oh, he's such an inspiration for us all. Up there, they probably gonna have the halftime show playing at the Blue Oyster. If you don't get that joke, you are not you don't you're not from Gen X. You won't get only Gen X will get that joke about Blue Oyster. But yeah, they're gonna be playing the halftime show at the Blue Oyster. Trust me. No, Hermas Mora 9687 says my drill sergeant told me that the Marines are killers, but the Army are murderers. Uh, I don't know what your drill sergeant meant by that, and I don't know whether your drill sergeant was a Marine drill sergeant or an Army drill sergeant or drill sergeant of one of the other uh, armed forces. But I don't know how that's even relevant to what we are talking about here. Um, my drill sergeants told me nothing of the sort. um, and largely, the infantry of the Marines and the infantry of the Army are quite similar in their uh, capabilities. Um, the the biggest difference the biggest difference I usually hear is that the Marines are an invading force, where the Army infantry is an occupational force. So the Marines are sent in to invade, and Army is there to sit there and occupy and hold that that position. So, but largely they are very similar. So I don't have anything to say about that. Don't know what that even means. But thank you. Uh, you know, thank you for being a fellow vet. I don't know if San Fran vet was a real vet because the dude was really in his feelings like a girl, but he probably came in during the don't ask don't tell era or in the Biden era when we had men dressing as men able to dress up as girls in the military. That was the most embarrassing shit. Time to close this up. It is dark. But I largely see the Marines and Army as brothers. We definitely we definitely talk shit about each other all the time. Marines always say Army stands for ain't ready for Marines yet. Um, so one of my friends made up an acronym for the Marines. I don't think it's ever caught on, but it was funny. He said, "Yeah, Marine stands for muscles are required, intelligence not expected," which I thought was funny. Or another one of my friends said the Marine logo is just a don't get mad at me, um, man, because I didn't say this. He did. I'm just mentioning it. I'm mentioning what he said. He was saying the Marine logo was a seagull taking a shit on the globe. So don't get mad at me for saying that. Yeah, that was what he said. And most Marines I know have a good sense of humor about it. Like I've never got punched for saying that, especially since they usually started. He's like, "Oh, Army," because they're usually the ones who started. As soon as you say, they ask you, "Have you served?" and you're like, "Yeah, I was in the Army." They give you that look. They give you that look with the knowing smirk. They were like, "Army, huh?" See, and as soon as they say that, I already know what's coming. Pause. Uh, I already know what they're gonna say. Like, yeah, Army. I mean, ain't ready for Marines yet. They love that one. And so I always use my friends, my friends follow up. I was like, all right, well, Marine stands for muscles are required, intelligence not expected. And he's like, oh, I had one guy. He's like, oh man, that's mean. I'm like, I'm just joking with you. You got. I was like, you got me first. And usually I just laugh it off like, oh man, it's all good. Like I thought of Marines, but I was like, they had. All right, sorry about that. I'm back. Um, uh, Agnes is my. I haven't heard. Um, she says my fiance has enlisted in the Space Force. I tried to persuade him not to, but he said to me it's his dreams. I said, okay, bro, do you? Dang, way to not support him. Look, honestly, if Space Force was around back in the late '90s when I enlisted, I probably would have did it too. Like, I've times on here when I first went into the military. I first sought out the Air Force. Well, actually, no, technically it was the Navy, but that was back in high school. I didn't, know if how I was, how I was gonna, if where I was gonna go for college or what I wanted to do or how I was gonna pay for it. So I was thinking, Navy. And then I got a girlfriend, and I was like, nah, I want to stay here. And that was a very silly reason not to go. But that was the reason I didn't enlist in the Navy um, back when I was 17, was basically because I got a girlfriend. And my father was kind of happy too because he's a former Army guy, so he didn't want me doing the Army because he didn't want me doing Navy. He was like, oh, he wants to do the Navy like his uncle. Why not? Yeah, my Navy. Well, my uncle served in the Navy. Um, my grandfathers served in the Army. I think one of them also served in the Navy as well. Not grandfather, like one of my grand uncles served in the Navy as well. But most of my uncles, my father and grandfathers, was in the Navy, and one of my grand uncles was in the Navy. So, I mean, not a big deal, but he was. So I think he liked it when I ended up doing the Army like 4 years later. Uh, well, 3 years later actually. Well, whatever. Um, and then, like I said, when I originally was doing it, I was going to do Air Force because Air Force had those little high tech jobs that I thought would lead to good civilian careers, which is correct. Um, However, the issue was I didn't know whether those jobs will actually be available because the Air Force does not promise the Air Force cannot promise you a job like like the Army and the Marines do. The Army and the Marines, like when you go in, like you are locked into that MOS, that military occupation during when you go to the MEPS, the military entrance and processing station. When you go there and you select your MOS, that is you are locked in for that school when you come out of basic training. The Air Force doesn't do that. So that was a bit of a deterrent. Plus, a lot of the places were in just areas I didn't care about, to be honest. So I'm trying to do it locally so I could go to school in Maryland, which I was able to do with the Army. And a lot of those places for the Air Force were, way outside of the Washington area or Maryland generally. So um, then I switched over to Army. But like I said, if Space Force was available, being the nerd that I am, who grew up on Star Trek and Star Wars and um, um, uh, Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon and um, what was it, Galactica or whatever it was called. All this sci-fi after like watching uh, sci-fi for like 17 years, I probably would enlist in the Space Force too. To be quite honest, you got to understand that is an exciting. Even though even though Space Force um, doesn't offer anything in the field, the field there. But although they don't, it's still exciting. Yeah, I mean, like I said, for a nerd, saying your space force is the closest thing to saying you're part of the Starfleet, right? So I can see why your fiance would be excited about that, Agatha. Because I mean, Space Force does sound exciting. The jobs aren't really that exciting, but it's exciting to be a part of that branch of the military that is brand new. Like starting with a brand new branch of military, it's exciting. Just like when the Air Force branched off from the Army, uh, 70 years ago, that was exciting for folks becoming a new part of the Air Force. So Conan says, I met a Navy SEAL the other day. He was a nice guy. Some people think military guys are all on the edge at all times. Nah, look, most military dudes are the most chill people. But and a lot of I've met a not sorry not met I've talked to several folks who worked in special operations. Most of them are cool as shit. Like they're just people who you know, can turn on those psychopathic tendencies when they need to do so. Like, yeah, they can turn on those little psychopathic tendencies when they need to do so and, you know, bag some bodies. But, but you know, it's just like, but it's just like, someone who's like a, a, a competitive fighter, someone who, like, when I, you know, went into like a boxer or mixed martial artist or a Thai boxer or something like that. Most of these dudes are cool as hell, on their regular day to day. But they can turn on that killer instinct when they need to, when they're in the ring or when they're in on the mat or in the in the octagon. Just like someone who's worked, been in combat arms or special operations, they can turn on that killer instinct when they need to. But most of those folks don't aren't on you know aren't, aren't on that on like aren't constantly like on the edge of like just flipping out. Like I think that comes like people's um people watching movies and seeing stuff like that where they show these guys dealing with like PTSD or acute stress syndrome. And while that does happen to a lot of these folks, some people can live a normal life while still being able to put bullets in people, or they can live a normal life while being able to knock people out. So yeah, Agus is a very secretive job. Yeah, there's some stuff in Space Force that are like serious stuff. Like you need your TS SEI with poly type level security clearances to do. I mean, I only had a secret level security clearance when I with what I was doing, but you know, still more than what some people do. Uh, I wish I could have kept it because I could have used it for a government job. And one of my friends told me to apply for the Department of State way back in college when my security clearance was probably still active, but it was too late. But she's is it's a very secret job, so most of the time I do not know where he is stationed. Yeah, I mean, we know most of the places where like well they've expanded the military installations for Space Force, but originally most of them were like in Colorado. Now you got them. Now you have them in Colorado. Now you have them and all along the East Coast and in Greenland. again, yeah, we have so much military in Greenland. It's ridiculous. But yeah, we got a lot. Yeah, we got Space Force in Greenland. We have them in different areas all along the East Coast, but they're definitely like headquartered mostly in Colorado, which Colorado's boring. Although I'm sure if I was there, I would have a lot of snow bunnies that I could clap their cheeks. Let me stop. Let me stop. Bad contrarian. Bad contrarian. Bad contrarian. So yeah, um, but yeah, I probably would have enlisted in the Space Force if that was available back in 1998, 1997. So yeah, but I love the Army, so I'm happy with that. And they offer the most diverse um, jobs. So now I do wish I picked something else than what I did pick, which was cable installer and maintainer, which is like at the bottom level of signal intelligence. So had I done that, so I would have done that over definitely. But other than that, eh. Anyway, I'm gonna get. It's about to be kickoff, so I'm not. I'm not gonna hold you guys. I know most of you are about to go watch the Super Bowl, and again, even though I'm not, I have nothing against folks who want to enjoy that. So I'm not gonna keep you. I know some of you gotta prep, your food, your drinks, and all that before it starts. And I know with the kickoff, like they don't like with the beginning at 6:30, they're not literally playing as soon as it hits 6:30. There's gonna be all the little preparatory stuff. But some people like to watch it from the very beginning, just like when people go to the movies. A lot of people want to get there when the credits roll so they can see all the all the movie trailers for the upcoming films before the movie starts. So kind of the same thing with the kickoff. Like the kickoff, you get to see all the preparatory stuff before the game actually starts. So I'm gonna let you good people go. Um, and like I said, the beginning 45 minutes of the live stream was a sidetrack, but I did actually anticipate that happening in the stream, that we would talk about the whole Bad Bunny thing. So I let it happen, and I roasted the guy who as soon as things didn't go his way, he wanted to start being a dickhead. So there you go. Unless anyone else has anything else to say, um, I guess I don't know if you're going to watch the Super Bowl. I can't remember if you said you were or not, but if so, enjoy. I am going to. I don't know what I'm going to watch just yet. Um, but I have plenty of stuff to watch though. I just got to choose what I feel like watching. But you guys enjoy. Again, I have no preference for whichever team wins. So whichever team you're supporting, the Seattle Seahawks or the New England Patriots, is all good. All I will say is the New England Patriots is pretty much America's team at this point, right? And that comes with both a lot of support and a lot of um, enmity. So so whoever you're supporting, um, best of luck to you. And then some people will be excited. I forgot to mention this because they engage in sports betting. I think that's a bad idea. Deal as far as sports betting with FanDuel and all that sort of stuff, and on the lesser, the 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 lesser sports betting and the other other stuff that goes into sports gambling. That's probably like $1 billion industry on its own, just sports betting. So if you're watching to hope your team wins so that you can make a grip of money, Good luck. So, on that note, I'm out. You guys take care. Thank you.